Hey, yo, what's the deal? That's your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag, you know what I mean? As of this recording, it is 10:24 p.m., May 10th, 2026, but the upload time is actually 11:30, you know what I mean? And this is the last video of the night, you know what I mean? First off, real quick, I just want to say, yes, I know about the whole Oscar situation. I forgot to mention a little bit of this. So, Oscar, surprisingly, kind of said her goodbyes yesterday. She was crying yesterday after her match with Io Sky. And it basically was like, it was very unexpected. I mean, that was not heel-like from Oscar and such. And she was waving too. So it seemed like she was waving goodbye. Sorry if I'm coughing. I'm still a little, I'm still a little under the, not really under the weather, but still, still got this thing on my chest. But going back to thing, so it's being reported that Oscar is semi-retired. I don't know what that means. I think this was from Wrestling Observer. I think, like, I don't know what the fuck that means. Like, semi-retired, what? You're going to take a break from wrestling and then you're going to come back? Like, that doesn't make sense. I don't know. Something's going on. Something is definitely going on. I don't know. I know the AEW sickos are like, oh man, Connor's going to be released. Oh, we want Connor. We want Connor. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, this video is not about that. This video is my second discussion video of the night. And I want to take you back down the memory lane. You know what I'm saying? One thing I enjoyed about professional wrestling, especially as a kid, was dream matches. And how, me thinking about dream matches, right? Hold on real quick. Me thinking about dream matches, I always got them from the wrestling magazines that used to be in candy stores. Yes, there used to be candy stores, ladies and gentlemen. I used to live in Williamsburg. Okay? I used to live in the South Side. Fuck it, I'll even mention the address. I don't give a fuck. I used to live in 229 South 3rd, right there in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And around the corner, this was the 80s, around the corner there was a Chinese restaurant, which by the fucking way, that Chinese restaurant that used to be there, right there in the corner of South 3rd and Havermeyer, that might be, and I'm going to be biased on this one, that might be the greatest Chinese food I have ever tasted in my entire fucking life. No doubt about it. Some people are going to say Kung Kao. Kung Kao is fucking great. Don't get me wrong. Kung Kao is great. But the way how their Chinese food was at that time, we're talking about the 80s, bro. Let me mention a little bit. I remember the owner, right? The owner used to come in and he used to always have a pack of chicken wings on him. You know what I mean? Like, he used to cook them shits. He used to buy, I guess he brought them, for the restaurant and such. But that Chinese food was fucking good. Man, do I miss that. I miss, New York City in the 80s. God damn. But yeah, that Chinese food was fucking amazing. But like a couple of feet from that Chinese restaurant, there was a candy store, right? A candy stand. And they had all kinds of stuff, toys and shit. And I think they had magazines. No, I'm sorry. There was a candy stand on Marcy and Broadway. Marcy and Broadway, because I used to go to PS 17. Now I mean, where all the Jewish people at. And around there was a candy stand, a store that's actually still there. The stand is not there, but the store is still there, believe it or not. And they used to have wrestling magazines. I think also across the street, there's another store that they had it too. But I used to be obsessed with those wrestling magazines. from, Pro Wrestling Illustrated to Wrestling Insider to WWF Magazine. And I used to always reminisce about the different dream matches that, that I would love to have seen at that time. I would have loved to see, Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair with, NWA Ric Flair, Four Horsemen Ric Flair versus the immortal Hulk Hogan, right? Fucking, let me see, Macho Man Randy Savage against we're talking about WWF Macho Man Randy Savage against Sting. You know what I'm saying? And to that degree. Lex Luger, NWA Lex Luger against the Ultimate Warrior. I used to wanted to dream to see those kind of matches as a kid. You know what I mean? And those magazines were basically they were a staple. They clearly were a staple of my childhood, especially as a pro wrestling fan. You know what I mean? I used to love, I used to always spend time there. You know what I mean? I used to always spend time in the stores just looking at the magazines and see my favorite superstars and always dream of matches that we never got a chance to see. WWF Hulk Hogan versus Sting, right? Keyword, World Wrestling Federation Hulk Hogan versus Sting, right? What else? I think I remember seeing one of Bruiser Brody against Hulk Hogan, right? It was a lot. Hold on real quick. Sorry about that. Mama Tag caught me. But yeah, like I used to always go to that store and see the wrestling magazines and such. Why? Because again, they were fun. They also had posters and, they show like action figures and such. But of course, little old me at the time didn't know that all that shit was kayfabe. It was all a fucking work. It was all a work. Like, they're like, oh man, what would happen if the WWF champion goes up against the NWA champion? What would happen if the Nature Boy Ric Flair went up against the Macho Man Randy Savage, WWF champion? What would happen if Barry Windham goes one-on-one with, let me see, give me a fucking superstar. Let's say Jake the Snake Roberts, right? Jake Roberts. But, the front cover was always, it was always eye-catching. Very eye-catching. And of course, yes, they had telephone numbers that you would call. Right? They had numbers that you could call for hotlines and see who's going to go jump to this company, who's going to go jump to that company. And it's still like this. It's still like this to this day. Nothing's really changed. Nothing's really changed about these pro wrestling magazines. But I think now the internet kind of fucked up your imagination. You know what I mean? Because as a kid, like I said, using imagination, damn, she is fucking gorgeous. I'm seeing this infomercial, right? That they're giving right now on WANY 55. And there's this Indian reporter who used to be on Channel 11. Like, I forgot her name. It begins with an S. She can get that pipe. But again, as a kid, just using your imagination with these pro wrestling magazines, it was something amazing. You know what I mean? I think those pro wrestling magazines used to give cards and posters and such. You know what I mean? They used to give all that. And not only that, but also you used to see wrestlers that you only seen on magazines and stuff that you never really seen on TV. And you want to see them on TV. You know what I mean? Like, at the time, I always wanted to, I've always heard about, let me think of a wrestler. Let me think of a pro wrestler that I always seen in these magazines, but I never really got a chance to see wrestle. Let me think. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to really think. No, actually, I'm lying. I did finally get a chance to see this guy wrestle. Fuck I'm talking about. Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. He was okay. Know what I mean? But to me, you know, the Hot Stuff gimmick, I might get some flack. You know what I mean? Because Eddie Gilbert was, you know, he definitely was a staple of the United States Wrestling Association and shit, and down south, and also early ECW. But I think, and yes, you know, the finisher he had, that hot shot was fucking great. And yes, Steve Austin took his shit. But, you know, Shawn Michaels had that boy toy gimmick on lock. I'm sorry. You know, how what Eddie Gilbert had done in the World Wrestling Federation had, you know, had he not had gone through his personal issues, I don't know. But listen, those magazines were fucking amazing. I mean, those magazines were completely fucking amazing. Like, man, those times were just beautiful, man. You know what I mean? Those times were just fucking, they're priceless. They're beyond priceless, man. They're beyond priceless. But yeah, like I said, I used to love looking through those magazines and see, you know, your favorite wrestlers, see, you know, some of the things that they talk about, and, you know, see these guys on your TV screen and shit. It was always fun. Always. You know, damn, I miss those days. And yes, I definitely miss old school Brooklyn, old school Williamsburg, man. Like, as I'm going back, I'm going right back in time and shit. You know, like, my mom used to work. My mom was a teacher's assistant. She used to work right there at PS 46 in Clinton Hill. You know what I mean? And, you know, I used to take trips with her and stuff. And there was this big building. I remember, like, around that area, because you got the bridge. Around that area, there was a building called the Big Yellow. You know what I mean? That's one thing I definitely remember around where I live at, because I'm not, like, I live right there. I live right fucking there where the bridge is at. You know what I mean? Right there, 8 Miami Walk. Yeah, I know I'm going off topic because, you know, just reminiscing about Brooklyn and stuff, you know, Williamsburg. You know, there was also a pizzeria. There was also a pizzeria that was fucking great. Right there on South 2nd. Right? And there they had arcade games too. That's why I seen Kung Fu for the first time. Double Dribble. You know what I mean? And I think the next block from where I used to live at, you know what I mean? There was a pharmacy called Mitts. And there they had like a car service. Like, they had arcade games around that area. You know what I mean? Man, let me also mention one more thing. Before I moved to Crown Heights in 1990, right? The building next to me, I think it was a doctor's office. I think it was a doctor's office or a cab service. They had arch rivals there, but they also had Wrestle War. Wrestle War was a great fucking game, but it was hard as shit. It was definitely hard. It was difficult than a motherfucker. And you know what? I might add, you know, a little bit of that in the title and stuff, you know, just so people think, oh, Tag, you went off topic. Fuck you. Have a good night. All right, I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace. One more thing I forgot to mention. So, also when I was growing up with wrestling magazines, they also had wrestling magazines at the library, like right there where I used to live at in Williamsburg. Because there's also a library, like right when you go across the street on Marcy Avenue, right? And they also had wrestling magazines there too. Yeah, I used to always get wrestling magazines from there. I used to always see stuff there. You know what I mean? It was, you know, like I said, that whole area too, when it come down to wrestling was fucking amazing. You know what I mean? And like I said in the video, you know, like it gravitated towards Little Tag. You know what I mean? I love wrestling magazines. Anyway, I wanted to mention that. I'm out. Peace.